dear viewers, and welcome to RTD's English News Edition. Here are our headlines for tonight. The Republic of Djibouti supports the political agreement reached in Sudan. And in Turkey, Erdogan announces a military operation in northern Syria. Thank you for joining us in our newsroom. The Republic of Djibouti welcomes the agreement reached between the Transitional Military Council and the Alliance of the Liberation and Change Force on the constitutional declaration of power sharing during the transitional period in Sudan. This is another step toward conciliating peace, stability, and the realization of the aspirations of the Sudanese people for democracy and development. The Republic of Djibouti takes this opportunity to appeal to the various functions in order to preserve the best interests and expresses its satisfaction with the constructive efforts made by both sides to reach this agreement, which will certainly open a new page in the history of Sudan. Sudan is emerging from the political crisis it had been dealing with since December. The ruling generals and the leaders of the protesters signed a declaration to set up a sovereign council on 18 August. It will consist of 5 military and 6 civilian members, and its role will be to lead the transition for a little over 3 years, with a parliament and a government also appointed at the end of the month. This crucial step comes after difficult negotiations and the death in recent months of 250 people during the repression. The Sudanese demanded the dismissal of Omar al-Bashir, who was removed in April after 30 years, and the subsequent departure of the soldiers who had taken power. This agreement is an important step toward achieving peace and stability, Egypt said, welcoming it as did Saudi Arabia. As part of the implementation of the biometric system in Djibouti, Mr. Ahmed Omar Jama, acting chairman of the technical committee in charge of monitoring the proper implementation of this project, visited Obok yesterday, August 4. This visit was the first step in the broad regional tour that will last for 5 years and whose objective is to examine the strengths, weaknesses, risks, and opportunities of this state system. During this tour, the interim president of the technical committee, Mr. Ahmed Omar Jama, was accompanied by the Mayor of Djibouti, Mrs. Fatouma Awal Osman, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Decentralization, Mr. Mohamed Isa, Deputy Director General of the CNSS, Abdul Qadir Dini Abdul Qadir, as well as senior executives from several resources departments involved in the establishment of the National Registry, such as the Ministry of Justice, represented by Mrs. Khadira Mohammed, Magistrate of the Corps. The members of the technical committee were welcomed in Obok by the deputy prefect of the region as well as the president of the regional council. Immediately led them into the room to begin the debates and discussions with the assembly present around the table. The civil registration system has major shortcomings, which today impact the lives of many individuals who are still outside the birth registration system, particularly children born in remote rural areas or those where functional civil registration centers do not yet exist. Also, with an Act number 39 of the 21st January 2019 on the identification and national persons in the Republic of Djibouti, the creation of a national identification number and the establishment of a national registry, as well as its implementing decree, the reorganization and reform of civil status system is now becoming a priority issue that must be addressed at the national level. Urgent solutions must be provided in order to implement the above mentioned acts in due form. The president of the regional council and the acting prefect who spoke and recalled the visit, which is the first in broad regional tour that will last 5 years and whose objective is to examine the strengths, weaknesses, risks, and opportunities of the civil status system. He expressed its thanks and gratitude to the delegation for carrying out this noble task, which comes within the framework of the implementation of the biometric system in Djibouti. He commended this initiative, which will contribute to the development of the biometric system in Djibouti, in the country and the interior. This step, he said, falls within the application of the recently enacted laws in the field of civil development. Residents living in rural areas and remote villages suffer from the problem of not possessing the national identity cards, where they are tired of getting them out or owning them. For his part, the president of the Regional Council of Obok region, said that these measures to develop the system of civil status and national identities are underway. This tour will include all interior areas in the coming days, he said. We will explain the stages of this step to register the population in the national registry and to take out national identities and develop them by making them a biometric system, concluded the president of the regional council. In turn, the Deputy Director General of the National Fund for Social Security, CNSS, said on this occasion that Director General of the Department of Civil Status has clarified all the requirements relating to the possession of national identity. He talked about the importance of these times for the benefit of the medical services provided by the National Social Security Fund. He pointed out that the affairs of civil conditions structured and diversified and cooperate with the office authorized to the tax in the area that is specialized. Decentralization stands side by side to facilitate this task of developing the biometric system and reforming national identities and bringing them out for the benefit of people living in remote areas. In an intervention, the director of the civil status on this occasion pointed to the goal of conducting this inspection tour in the interior areas, specifically in the Obok region, based on the law issued on January 24th this year, which relates to the establishment of the identity of individuals, the establishment of the national identity number, and the national registry. We carry out, he said, through this round, the implementation of the civil registration system and reform. The purpose of this tour in the region is to collect and apply all recommendations in order to ensure a credible civil system. A validation workshop for the fourth national report of the initial assessment of the Minamata Convention on Mercury was held today at the People's Palace in Djibouti. The work of this three-day workshop was led by Mr. Hussein Rash Roble, Director of Environment and Sustainable Development, and in the presence of Mr. Dominic Belli, an expert in the field of mercury. The workshop brought together technicians, academics, researchers, and experts from ministry institutions, associations involved in mercury issues and mercury management. The overall objective of this workshop was to exchange best strategies, concepts, and methods in order to work together to find an effective way for the sound management of mercury and to provide participants with information on the progress of the project initial assessment of the Minamata Convention on Mercury in Djibouti. Specifically, the Ministry of Urban Planning, Environment and Tourism undertook and finalized the inventory of all sources of mercury emissions and discharges in Djibouti and the preparation of the fourth national report, the Minamata Convention on Mercury. Under the aegis of the Ministry of Health in close collaboration with WHO, a 5-day seminar on the National Action Plan for Health Security is being held at the Sheraton Hotel. It should be noted that the seminar was launched in the presence of interim director of the National Institute of Public Health in Djibouti, Mr. Nuh Said Weiss, the WHO representative, Dr. Ahmed Soudain, and many managers from the health department. This workshop therefore brought together all the stakeholders at the national level, which are composed of representatives of the various ministerial departments, all from key sectors in charge of developing a national action plan for the health security. The work of this seminar is part of the monitoring and evaluation of the international health regulations in order to analyze Djibouti's capacity in terms of health security through a multi-sectoral collaborative process taking into account diseases prevention, detection and control. As a reminder, this national action plan is also based on the concept of one word, one health, which covers 19 technical areas and applies to all HR-related capacities in the country. The WHO representative, Dr. Ahmed Zudain, praised the government's efforts in the field of health security, in particular through a collaborative approach that could further strengthen the institutional and operational framework. And for his part, the director of the INSPD, Mr. Noor Said Weiss, recalled that the objective of this initiative is to provide the country with appropriate means and procedures to deal with situations of crisis of small or large scale. Human capital has always constituted an important part of a country's wealth. It is necessary and strategic to take concrete measures and to display the strong ambition of Djibouti that invests in these citizens. To give concrete expression to the President's political vision, the government has developed a new national social protection strategy based on a human rights approach. For more details, Hindi Ibrahim has more to tell us.
Has always constituted an important part of a country's wealth. It is a necessary and a strategy to take concrete measures and to display the strong competition of a Djibouti that invests in these citizens. To give concrete expression to the present political vision, the government has developed a new national social protection strategy based on a human rights approach. But then, what is social protection? It is a series of interventions aimed at reducing vulnerability and social and economic risk, and at reducing extreme poverty and deprivation. Social protection also promotes the resilience of families like this one, enabling them to manage risk, cope with shock, and continue to invest in their children even after a disaster. The establishment of National Social Protection Strategy by the Ministry of Social Affairs will provide not only children but also inter-families and thus provide the most vulnerable people with protection throughout their lives. All this aimed at strengthening not only human capital but also the skills of poor and vulnerable families. This national social protection strategy will help the most vulnerable population to have the tools they need to drive and will empower people be healthy, stay in school, and in turn be major actors in the local economic and lift themselves and other families out of poverty.
As part of the National Family Solidarity Program, the Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity made a trip this weekend to the village of Asamo in the Al Sabih region to transfer money to vulnerable families. Launched in 2016 by the President of the Republic, the project is implemented by the Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity. It provides solutions adapted to the vulnerable segments of the Djiboutian population, whether they live in the capital or in the interior regions. The process is timely. It aims to strengthen the productive and educational capacities of households benefiting from this program. This is based on an integrated approach to social protection in the fight against the inclusion of poor families, financed entirely from government-owned funds. Currently targets 3,362 households, or about 17,482 individuals spread over the 5 interior regions. Each of these households benefits from a cash transfer of 30,000 francs per month. Moreover, in order to better coordinate social protection actions, the Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity has set up a national register which is supposed to serve as a basis for all future interventions in favor of vulnerable sections of the Djiboutian population. The Moya Kunta family would like to inform you that their son Hassan Moya, 4 years old, has been missing since 28 July 2019. According to information received from outsiders, after a long search, it seems that he appeared at the Grand Para 2 days ago, but the information itself was not enough, and his family is still looking for him. However, for anyone who has seen him or met him, please call this number 77 68 45 04 or 77 86 00 05. Obituary: we regret to inform you of the death of Mr. Gadito Hamadou Mohamed, which occurred yesterday morning at the Peltier Hospital, son of Captain Hamadou, former retired from the gendarmerie. The late Gadito was born in 1979 in Tijora. We send our sincere condolences to his whole family. We ask the Almighty to welcome him in his eternal paradise. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. International news now. Turkey, Erdogan announces a military operation in northern Syria. Turkey will conduct a military operation in northern Syria. The announcement was made by Sunday by the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who has been threatening this for several months. He did not provide any further details on how the operation was conducted. Kurdish forces control parts of northern Syria. They received the support of the United States, in particular in their battle against the extremist groups. But for the Turkish president, these Turkish militia are an extension of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, PKK, a movement fighting for the autonomy of the Kurdish majority territories in Turkey. Recep Tayyip Erdogan has long called for the establishment of a security zone in northern Syria that will keep Kurdish fighters away from the Turkish border. United States, two fatal shootings in few hours. 29 people were killed and dozens injured in the two shootings that occurred in the United States in the space of 13 hours. The first massacre took place on Saturday morning in the border town of El Paso, Texas. A 21-year-old armed man killed 20 people in a Walmart store before turning himself into the police. A manifesto attributed to the shooter and circulating on the internet announces a Hispanic invasion of Texas. The police give priority to the racist crime scene. The case will be treated as an act of domestic terrorism, according to the federal prosecutor in charge of the John Page case. And the American president reacted on Twitter, referring to the two killings. God bless to the people of El Paso and Texas. God bless the people of Dayton, Ohio. He tweeted, 13 hours after the El Paso bloodbath, Dayton, Ohio was shot in the bustling Oregon neighborhood. According to the city's mayor, the attacker was subdued in less than a minute. The shooter was a 24-year-old white male, and his sister is among the victims, according to the authorities. He died to his injuries received during police retaliation fire. As after each mass murder, several voices have been raised calling for better regulation of the firearms market in the United States. And that's all for our evening news. Thank you for your attention and have a good night.